Good morning, everybody. I have a friend of mine here, Andrew Hartman, who is the founder of Time Boss. Thank you so much for being here, Andrew. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
my pleasure, Chris. I've been really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I think this will be fun. I think there's so much in what you do and how so many entrepreneurs need these tasks, as well as just regular, people that are in the 9 to 5 world as well. It's so easy not to um, balance our time well and put up those boundaries where they need to be.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation.
Yeah, me as well. Me too.
Yeah. So I think there's a really cool story about why you started your company. And if you want to kind of share how the stress of life found you and kind
Yeah,
of navigated this path.
yeah, for sure. So I think probably like a lot of people watching, I was uh, really ambitious in my career. I wanted to do great work. I was in my late 20s and was in a leadership role where I had way more to do than I had time to do it. And what I discovered as that started hitting me is I really did not have a framework or a way of thinking about how to manage my time. I had a calendar, I had a to-do list, I had all the things people had taught me to use, and I realized they were not enough for what was coming at me. Just the onslaught of tasks, of requests, of projects, of initiatives, of KPIs, of all the things. And I ended up pretty overwhelmed. And I think this is really where the average person is at, where they have way more to do than time to do it. They're shoveling as fast as they can. They finish every day with a million things undone, feeling like a failure. They cope all night, they wake up again, and they do it all over again tomorrow. I think that's where a lot of us are. And that's where I was.
Yeah.
It hit me like a ton of bricks. I just was, I was felt stressed all the time. I thought we were supposed to feel stressed. And I think that's where a lot of us are as well. We just think stress is part of the equation. It's the tax we're going to pay to get the results that we want. And it really started to wear me down. So one, it was wearing on my relationships. I am married, was married at the time, had little kids, and I would be physically home, but emotionally, mentally, everywhere else. Just was not present because of that stress. I'd be there for dinner, bath time, and then open my laptop again and just go till midnight every night. It started impacting my health. I could feel these hot flashes coming on, like literally like my senses were cooking. And eventually I literally lost my sense of smell for 6 months as a function of stress. And I didn't know it was coming back. 3 months in, I just thought it was gone. I literally thought I had broke myself because of stress. And really it just was my body's yellow flashing lights and ultimately really red flashing lights saying something has got to be different. You are not operating in a way that is sustainable. Like you must change, and our body will tell us that. In my Time Boss program, I hear things like I have unending irritable bowel syndrome, migraines. One of my clients had Bell's palsy, where half his face went numb as a function of stress. Like literally, it's almost like it's paralyzed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just bad. And so for me, I ultimately hit a red line, burnt out. I was working in early stage software companies. I had been promoted. I mean, this is the sad part, Christy. I was consistently promoted because I was a grinder. I was going to do great
Yep.
work. And consistently in the Time Boss program, as people come in, they are people that are going to achieve the goals they're responsible for. They are going to hold up their end of the bargain for themselves and for their team. And it is costing them in their health. It is costing them in their relationships. It is costing them in their stress levels, their anxiety, literally just their experience of life. And that was me. So I burnt out on a Thursday night, called up my CEO. I was the COO at the time. So COO of a venture-backed startup, calling up my CEO on a Thursday night saying, I can't do this anymore. I mean, I put everybody at risk. I put my company at risk. I put my team at risk. I put my family at risk. I was the only provider. I was the sole provider for our family at the time. So burnout's a real deal. I mean, I don't think people realize how bad it is, how risky it is to operate this way and ultimately find yourself unable to show up and even be motivated to do the things that you're responsible for. So that began my journey towards Time Boss. I was a builder, I was a COO, and I was a product person. And so I said to myself, I have got to figure out a way to stay in the game, to continue to contribute, because I didn't want to check out. I didn't want to go, downshift and not deliver. I wanted to keep delivering, but I had to figure out a way to do that without overwhelm. I wanted to get results without overwhelm. And so I just made myself the customer, and I started week over week just iterating, making tiny adjustments, tiny adjustments, tiny adjustments until I built a framework really for myself. I wasn't trying to build a thing called Time Boss. I was just trying to survive. I wanted to I wanted to not burn out and get results I wanted. And it worked, Christy. It really did. I ultimately solved it, began to get incredible results without that overwhelm, without that stress and anxiety. As soon as I figured it out, I rolled it to my team and I said, guys, we've got to operate this way. Like, even for me, like, if you're going to work with me, you have to operate this way. I wasn't really thinking it was going to be helpful for them. I was more thinking, I can't go back to the way I was. You need to do this with me. It ended up being incredible for them. Other individuals started from other companies started to lean in and ask me to coach them on it and train them on it. And I had this aha moment of, wait, what is going on here? I'm pretty sure I thought I built this for myself, but I think this is actually applicable to others. And really, my wife, Kelly, my business partner, Kelly, Christy.
Yeah.
We joke that we just rode the horse in the direction it was going. Like, people just kept asking us to help them in this way. And we thought there might be something here. And now that's what we're building with Time Boss.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think burnout is never talked about enough. It's never talked about either, that it's healthy to, at the end of the day, shut your laptop, don't
Yes.
open it again, don't listen to all the calls or the dings, any of that. Because I mean, I've experienced that a lot. I had a job, it was actually working for my family, which is a whole different dynamic a lot of times. And
Right.
it got to be to the point where it made me physically sick. And the doctor is, hey, you have two choices. You can quit your job, or I can admit you into the hospital today. Your choice. Which route would you like to go? And it's like, oh, wow, didn't think I'd get to that point. And I ultimately left and took off 3 months just to rest and heal. And you don't really realize how much your body's telling you of those yellow signs, and then they turn into red flashing lights. And then ultimately it's, hey, it's make it or break it. You got to do something here.
Yep, that's exactly right, Christy. And that's where I was. I mean, it was, and again, you have two options when you burn out, I think. I mean, we all have two options in general. We can either just downshift and say, hey, no stress 2025.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on me, which is fine. You can absolutely do that. But I think my guess is for you, Christy, for me, for the people that are listening to this, we are people that are up to something. We're contributing to something that we care about. So that's not really an option.
Mm-mm.
And the other option is I'm just going to grind. But as you and I both know, it's not sustainable. And so for me, with Time Boss, what we're after is this concept called highest sustainable pace. What is the fastest that I can run with the greatest contribution possible in a way that I can sustain, where I can close my laptop at the end of the day or on a weekend, and I can rest and recover, not just cope till tomorrow, but actually rest and recover, where I come back full energy, full passion. Let's do it again tomorrow. Let's make this thing happen. And it's
not feel guilty, because how many times do you feel guilty? Sometimes probably in the beginning of the process of, oh gosh, it's 5 o'clock. I'm not used to this. I need to go check this at 9.
Well, and here's the final boss of life change related to time is that we are addicted to feeling valuable.
Yeah.
We hate our email inbox, but if you came to your email inbox and it was empty, you would be afraid. I would be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Because we would think, oh gosh, am I not wanted? Am I not needed? We love that feeling. So there is this very unhealthy cyclical relationship with productivity that scratches an itch for us that we also wish it didn't scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have the whole concept of Time Boss is this: you have got to become the boss of your future self. You've got to decide, how do I set my future self up to be successful? Is it checking the pings and dings at 8 p.m. every night? It's not. We all know it. We all know that's not the life we want to live, but we have to do something about it. And so that's really what the framework is for, is how do I make a decision on behalf of my future self to set that person up to be successful, and then allow that person to simply run the plan. And we did that week over week over week over week.
And I wish some of these things were even taught, like when we were back in school. These are not things that school ever teaches. Jobs don't really teach either. It's kind of the culture has always been this hustle and grind, until maybe our generation and the future ones have kind of said, hey, wait a second.
Yeah.
We can't do this to the extent that it was.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think that current or modern productivity frameworks were built for the industrial era, where there was a factory floor. I banged out widgets 8 hours a day, whistle blows, I go home, and I couldn't even work on the widget if I tried.
Mm-hmm.
We don't live in that world. Microsoft calls it the infinite workday. It never stops. And so in an infinite workday, we have to decide when we're available. And that's really the first principle in Time Boss, is you decide how much of your life you want to give to work. Is it 20 hours? Is it 40 hours? Is it 60 hours? Is it 80 hours? The amount of time actually doesn't matter. Most people are like, I want to have work-life balance. I'm going to work 40 hours a week. 40 hours a week is the most arbitrary number in the history of business. It's just a number we made up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a round number. So we decide. And so again, I think we have to decide first, how much of my life am I willing to give to work? And then draw a boundary there. And at that point, if you do that, time becomes a currency for you. We say in Time Boss that time is cash, not credit. I don't just to keep swiping and saying yes and allow my future self to just get literally buried in debt from all the yeses that I've said. We account for the time that we have when we say, I'm going to give, for me, it's 50 hours of my week. I'm going to give 50 hours of my week to Time Boss. I call it to income generating activities.
Mm-hmm.
That requires me to be incredibly judicious about how I spend those 50 hours, because when those 50 hours are up, I have teenagers that I want to be invested in. I have a wife that I want to be invested in. I have a church community I want to be invested in, all of these things. And it is zero sum. I cannot do everything. So I think that first step of deciding how much you're willing to invest into your profession is so critical. Otherwise, it will take it all. There will always be another problem. Your to-do list, Christy, my to-do list, Christy, or my to-do list is absolutely infinite.
Yo,
right?
yeah.
We check the items off, and they're like bunnies. They just reappear.
Mm-hmm. You blink, and there's 15 more.
Check all the items off, we would go invent more problems to solve because we love feeling valuable. So we're never going to get to the bottom of the list. And so we have to operate differently. To your point about we don't teach this in higher education, you're 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely institutional knowledge. If you didn't have a parent that was good at it or a boss that was good at it, we are all fending for ourselves. And that's where I was. I was looking around and I thought, is anybody good at this? Is anybody getting results and not stressed? And I could not find a person that was delivering at a level that I wanted to deliver without anxiety, which started me on the process.
Yeah. No, I think it's so interesting. And especially now you just hear it talked about a lot more than you ever have before. People have brought it to the forefront. They're expressing more about, hey, this is where I'm frustrated at work, or I can't get my time back and do the things that bring me joy. And you see a lot of that just internationally compared to the US. You know, internationally, a lot of times they're taking the whole month off and things that just seem impossible for us to do, because you always hear I think there's a meme that says, hey, I'm going in for surgery. Don't worry. I'll be out in 4 hours and I'll check my emails then. And I'm like, how terrible is that?
Yes. We feel tremendous guilt.
Yeah.
And it's just not healthy. I think we are seeing a massive cultural pushback because industry in general has not protected workers.
Mm-hmm.
A stiff arm, really, from a generation saying, I'm not gonna sacrifice my life here. But the reality is, I mean, it's super unfortunate because both parties miss out. The firm does not get maximum output from their people, and their people do not have the opportunity to really do great work, right? They are limiting themselves arbitrarily by, hey, at 40 hours, I'm clocking out, or if I feel stressed, that's a problem. And again, I am the first proponent to say anxiety is not helpful, but there is a stress that is incredibly helpful. It's actually called eustress, EUSTRESS. It's positive stress. And that's the stress that allows us to lock in and really do our best work. The problem is, and people think those are incongruent. A company or a firm's going to demand time from an employee, and an employee is going to stiff arm them and say, you can't, I'm only going to give you so much time. The reality is both are possible. The way I see it is a company is literally budgeting time to that individual, and you're empowering that individual to say, I want you to maximize this time aligned to the goals and values of this organization. Let me show you how to do that. But yes, absolutely. Let's run at your highest sustainable pace where you are not driven by fear, anger, anxiety, but peace and freedom and clarity about the great work that you want to do. And again, that's where I see Time Boss coming in. Truly for me, Christy, I see Time Boss and the core ideas of it as the common knowledge of the modern era, the common knowledge of time, because we have to have a different way of thinking about time to operate in this era. When we first started, I thought Time Boss was a good idea. When we started getting results back from 35% jump in productivity, people feeling like they get 4 to 10 hours back a week perceptively, and everyone's stress goes down. I mean, 97% of people that go through Time Boss experience more peace, less overwhelm. I realized this is a dramatic shift, and it matches with this infinite modern workday in a way that people just don't have on hand. There's not those common knowledge ideas that they can just go grab and start using, and that's what we're trying to do with Time Boss.
Yeah, I think it's great, because I think people haven't learned necessarily to block out tasks either. That's, kind of been, you used to be, I remember when people would carry around the paper calendar and they'd handwrite it all in. And then we went to the digital format, and that kind of changed things up just a little bit of, oh, this is easy to change and I can slough it off, or, write something else over top of it. So,
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that as well. I'll have something blocked out of, hey, I'm going to work on the business for, a block of 2 or 3 hours today. And then I might have a client, or I might have a call come in, and I'm like, oh, well, this can be pushed off the side. I've just reprioritized something that maybe is not as important, but I'm making it more important than it should be, and pushing this off to the side another day when it should have been done today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we really do have to think of our calendar like our to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And we want, again, that idea of Time Boss, I'm setting my future self up to be successful. When I run a weekly planning meeting in the Time Boss framework, I'm literally thinking, okay, what is the recipe for the maximum success for this week? And so as I slot things into my calendar, and I'm a big proponent of very discrete tasks, like very specific, very manageable, very clear definition of done. So when that comes up in your calendar, you just attack it. And I think the mental model you have to have is, I am going to treat this as if another human is showing up. Because you just said it right there, Christy. The examples you gave where other humans were showing up. So you move your tasks down on the list and you move those up. But again, time is time. Everything competes. So for me, I give 50 hours to Time Boss. Every task within those 50 hours competes, whether another human is showing up or not. And so I have to make a decision and say, is this client coming at me right now more important than me making this progress on my business the next hour? And maybe it is. Maybe you should switch and work on that client. Or, and I know we're going to get into this idea of the multiple tasks, literally budget for the unknown, where you have buffer, and I have buffer built into my calendar, where if that client calls, I say, hey, you know what? Could I call you back at 3 o'clock today? Or after 3 o'clock, I've got some time open. And most of the time, people will say, yeah, no problem at all. If we get back today, that's great, because people just want confidence that you're going to get back to them in a reasonable amount of time. And they want empathy that you think their priorities matter. They don't want to hear a stiff arm. They want to know that you're receiving their need, you hear it, and you're going to get back to them in a reasonable amount of time. It doesn't have to be right now for most people, 95% of the time, which means, if that's true, that means we actually can focus on those critical priorities that are going to move our business forward, and we can be responsive to other people. We just have to budget time into our calendar for that responsive time, so that we feel reasonable about saying, hey, would you mind waiting just a few hours and I'll be available for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just that it's the communication that comes down to it also. And it goes a long ways. Well, the other thing I wanted to get into, which I know you have a lot around this, is just how work is really boiled down to 3 different tasks.
Yes.
I'm really curious to know more about this and even start applying it for myself.
This mental model, this is that common knowledge of time that I'm talking about. And I think this will fundamentally change the way people think about work. So the first 2 are very obvious, and people are aware of these. So the first one is our recurring tasks. These are things that we do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, every 5 years, whatever, that run our business or run our world, right? And so that might be, if you're a business owner, I check payroll, and I have a weekly team meeting, and I do a review of all my projects. Again, these are rituals that we've learned that if we trade time, we will get value back. So I've decided, so let's say a weekly team meeting is the best example. Most companies have a weekly team meeting where they have said, I am willing to trade an hour of my week for the value I get back. And what is that value? Alignment, solving problems real time, checking KPIs to make sure that we're on track, whatever the case may be. The reality is we do this with all kinds of things where other humans aren't showing up. So I review all the projects that I'm responsible for. I check cash flow. Those things take time. And so my encouragement for people is to think of those. They take time. Anything that takes time, I would argue, should be represented on your calendar. And so I encourage people to actually put recurring tasks on their calendar, even if no other human is showing up, to represent the fact that it's actually costing them time to do it. Often people will look at their calendar and be like, I have nothing to do today. But the reality is their day is jam-packed. In fact, they've overplanned their day simply because they haven't represented on their calendar and literally budgeted time on their calendar. So recurring tasks, and most of us get that, and truly it's the recipe for success for our businesses. The high functioning businesses have identified their recurring activities, their recurring tasks. They've documented those recurring tasks. They're very clear on how do we repeat excellence. And for the scaling leader, it's a powerful way to push things down. For you to delegate, in EOS, they call it delegate and elevate. Recurring tasks are the easiest thing for you to delegate so that you can free up time to do other things. So recurring tasks makes sense. We all have them. You probably have some on your calendar. I have some on my calendar.
Yeah.
The other is one-time tasks. So that's the second one. And this is obvious, right? These are projects, initiatives I'm going to do one time and not again. It's not recurring. It's not coming up often, but I might be launching a new website, or I might need to hire a new sales director. Initiative-based items. And again, we're all aware of these. Like we fill our to-do lists with these type of items. And again, just like those recurring tasks, my encouragement with one-time tasks is that those are making it to your calendar. You're doing a good breakdown of those items into manageable tasks, things that you can accomplish in an hour or two, clear definition of done, where you're literally creating a stepping stone for your future self to make those tasks happen. So most people stop there. Like what I just said, there's probably a bunch of people who be like, yeah, I totally get that, Andrew. Like, this is my world. So recurring tasks and one-time tasks. The third thing that people do not think about, I call them unknown tasks. These are the urgent and important items that I guarantee you're going to get interrupted this week. I don't know how you're going to get interrupted, Christy, this week, but
it'll happen.
It'll happen probably right after this meeting, and for me as well. And so we all know this. We know that our clients have needs. We know our employees have needs. We know that systems break. We know that our kids get sick. We know that we're going to get email. We know that there's going to be messages. We know all these things, and yet we don't account for them in our time. And again, this is where I think it's so powerful for our calendar to become our to-do list. Unknown tasks, we need to budget for them in our time. We mentioned it earlier with your client call. Because again, we know those items are coming. We're simply in the same way that we would resource a recurring task and a one-time task on our calendar by giving it time. Tasks want time as a very fundamental principle. We're budgeting for those unknown tasks. And people always ask, how much should I budget for? My rule of thumb is you should budget 10% to 40% of your week to unknown tasks. And people will like lose their mind when I say
because it seems like a lot.
So much, but it's there. So my encouragement, if you don't think you need that much, just try it this week. I would love we have a time tracker on the Time Boss website. You can go grab it. Track your time and see how often something comes your way that you did not anticipate coming. And you will see it is 10% to 40% of your week, almost as a rule.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And so the question becomes, should you budget time or not? Well, do those things matter to you or not? If they don't matter, you should say no and not do them.
Yeah.
But the reason why it's sending your calendar sideways is because they matter. Your client, Christy, it would be inappropriate for you not to respond to your client when they reach out. And so I think when we honor unknown tasks by budgeting time on our calendar for them, you are honoring that client, right? You are honoring your team member that's going to need you. You're saying these things are important. I can't anticipate what they are, but I'm going to be honest with myself that they need time. And so because we don't budget for unknown tasks, we will fill either literally will fill our calendar or expectationally will fill our mental calendar of all that we can get done, not budgeting for unknown tasks. And then we end the day feeling like a failure because we didn't get to the items we wanted. And what do? We open up our laptop at night and we keep working. We skip our workout the next morning because we already feel behind from yesterday. We don't leave our desk during lunch because we think we just have to keep working. And this is where people get stuck in that stress cycle. So I think if you can come to terms with those three tasks and have a plan for each of them, in Time Boss, we have very specific tools, very simple tools that we use to manage each of those tasks. And it will dramatically change your experience of work. Unknown tasks in particular, by budgeting for that, and a magic thing happens. I mentioned 10 to 40%, Christine.
Yeah.
I know a lot. I guarantee everyone listening had resistance level. Like, this guy's an idiot, right? I get it. Here's what happens. You are going to have days, I promise, where you will need every single second of that buffer time. I call it whirlwind because it kind of feels like a whirlwind sometimes. Those unexpected things are hard for us to deal with. You will need every single second of that whirlwind time. There will be other days where you don't need it, where the client didn't call, where your team member doesn't need you. And here's the magic of those days. You likely, if you're in the time boss system for sure, you're going to have a list of one-time tasks. I call it the backlog. And if let's say you have 40% of your day blocked off for whirlwind and you don't need it, you can go to your backlog and start grabbing items and working on them. Or you can go to items that you scheduled tomorrow and pull them in today and start working on them. And the most magical feeling develops, Christy. I am ahead of schedule.
Which is a great feeling because that's so rare.
Absolutely. But what did we change? We didn't change the work. The work is the work. We simply changed the way that you think about the work, the way that the work is coming at you, your mental models about how the work is coming at you. That's it. Mm-hmm. And so that's the power. What happens is operating this way dramatically drops people's stress because they now feel like there is enough time. And what it increases then is your focus, your decision-making, your commitment to the tasks on your calendar. So your productivity jumps, the impact of the items on your calendar that you actually make time for jump, and your stress drops. Who wouldn't want that? Why wouldn't we operate this way? But again, that's why I'm so adamant about this way of thinking. Again, once the results started, this was a side project that Kelly and I were running until the results started coming back. And then we decided to shoot a cannonball at it, realizing overwhelm is an absolute epidemic that is absolutely solvable. People just have to know how to think about time.
Oh, yeah. And I would say, like, even in the past, and I've seen it specifically working in the tech world, and I don't know if this is just how that industry works, there really are no time constraints. It's just fluid. You're always going. And I noticed from being in that, I would have meetings all day and then I work all evening into the late night doing the deliverables for the next day because there was no time, because it's managing all of these meetings with people. Yeah. And with the client and with their teams. And so it almost seems impossible when you look at something like that to say, okay, how do I start narrowing this down? But it's simple to your point of, hey, the client calls and you're like, hey, you know what? How about 3:30 today? Not right now because I'm in the middle of this task. And I don't know how you've seen it, but when you get interrupted from a task, how long it kind of takes you to get refocused back into it again?
23 minutes, according to yeah, which is bonkers. This is why we burn time, allowing ourselves to be interrupted. We burn the time that we already feel like we don't have because it takes so much time, especially for the work that you and I are doing, Christy. Yeah. On this call. We're not ditch diggers, right? Like we are deep in Excel spreadsheets. We are spending hours with an AI trying to solve a problem where our mental context kind of expands into the task and is a part of the work that's being done. And so if that's constantly being yanked out and having to reestablish, we just burn time. So
and you kind of just give up. You're like, all right, I'm just going to go have lunch now because I can't get refocused again. Yeah.
It's fight or flight. So when stress hits, right, and when there's more to do than time to do it, the natural response is stress for this very simple reason. Because the items on our to-do list, we know if we don't do them, they are either going to hurt us or they're going to hurt people that we care about. And that creates stress. So fight or flight. Fight is I'm just going to open my laptop and I'm going to grind all night. I'm going to wake up early and do it again. Or flight, like you said, I'm just going to eat lunch. Like you almost declare bankruptcy. Like
you kind of do. You're like, forget it.
Yeah. And how is that good for teams? And so if you're a team leader listening to this, Christy and I are sharing experiences of humans that are probably on your team, maybe for you. How is that good for business? Yeah. Again, that's where I think pace is so critical. Your tech industry question, Christy. So that's where I burnt out. It was a SaaS company. We had enterprise clients. It was a bad situation. And I'll say this, I had an incredible CEO. The person that I was working for was a great man who really cared about me. It was a self-inflicted wound. I did this to myself, which is true for most of us, right? Yeah. Because I tolerated people coming from my time and just taking it. So, you mentioned that idea of we could work all the time, and it's true. Where people typically have three lines. They have the line where they want to stop, right? I only want to work 50 hours a week. That's the line where they want to stop. They have the line that they'll tolerate. Okay, I'll go to 60. I'll go to 60. And then they have their red line. Okay, 70 and no more, right?
Yeah.
But all of those lines are completely arbitrary. We make them up, right?
Mhm.
And we don't push back until we hit that hard red line. And often that hard red line for people is the amount of waking hours they have. Because they'll say, literally, they'll say, like, I couldn't give you more time if I had it. Like, I have to sleep.
Mhm.
But the reality is we can carve that line anywhere we want. So in my situation, like I was very similar to you, Christy, meetings all day, doing deliverables at night. I would say, I'm so sorry. I do not have time for that meeting. I'm not able to do that today or tomorrow. I could do it on Thursday or Friday of this week. And a fascinating thing happened. People would be like, oh, okay. Okay, great. Let's do it Thursday or Friday. And I realized I had built this narrative around speed and availability that was not even required in my environment. So I could actually architect it the way I wanted. And I could say, hey, I'm at capacity, team. We need more resources. We either need to, so it's time math at that point. We either need to say no to this initiative. I need to get another resource on my team that can handle it. We need to spread out the timeline so Andrew has more time in the future to handle it. Again, it's math, but the math does not work if I am just constantly giving more and more of my time. And again, that idea of swiping the credit card, I was giving time to work that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And I was ending up overwhelmed, underwater, just shoveling to get faster, letting myself down, letting my family down, letting my health down, letting my team down. It sucked for everyone. Why was I doing that? But I just kept saying yes because I wanted to feel valuable and I didn't know what else to do. I thought that's what I had to do in this environment to be successful. And it just doesn't have to be that way.
No, and I mean, it seems like the accounting industry too. You hear about, all of these people that come out of school, they're at Deloitte, you're working your first tax season and you're working 70 hours, 80 hours a week to get through this season. And so many people get burned out and they go to smaller firms because it's kind of ridiculous in a sense of what the larger ones want from you. And I can even speak to some of it I worked at Standard and Poor's for a couple of years, not long, because I didn't like kind of just how it worked there, and too much of the entrepreneur in me, the free thinker. And I'm like, this I can't do. But they would even have certain things of, okay, everybody, we need you to come back after work. So even if your shift ended early today, we need you to come back for a team meeting. No, that was my line in the sand, that you do get to that point where you start making them yourself. And I remember saying, like, send me a bulleted email. Let me know what the meeting's about. I'll be happy to ask any questions. But no, I will not be attending because my shift is done for the day. Right. And it's a waste of my time it's a waste of my time to come back here when I'm already home or, doing your task for the day. And I remember it was really interesting. My colleagues would be, how'd you get away with not having to come? That's not fair. I'm like, you just say no. Like, I am not coming and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, time is a fixed commodity, just like cash is a fixed commodity. If a firm has $10 million to deploy, they have $10 million to deploy. They don't have 10.5, they don't have 11, they don't have 15, and time's the same. And so we have to think that way as team leaders. I mean, again, so in my environment where I was a COO, people were burning out under me.
Yeah.
And when people burn out under me, I lose their contribution. I lose their institutional knowledge. I lose their context, their experience. It's bad. Like, it's not even an efficient way to operate. And so in the same way that I would not run, if I have $10 million to deploy, I'm not going to act like I have $15 million to deploy, right? I'm probably going to act as like I have $8 million to deploy and maintain a buffer just in case, And the same is true with time. Like, we have to find that highest sustainable pace where we can maximize the output of our team, the impact, their contribution for ourselves and for our team, and we can sustain. Does it mean we won't sprint? No. Like in your instance, Christy, when I was leading in health, like once I had established this framework, I would go to my team and say, hey, we've got a product launch coming up in a month. This next month is going to be more intense. We're going to need more time math. We just need more time. Can you please go to your spouses and have a conversation about how this month is going to go? Can you plan ahead? Can you guys talk about how to make it work in your environments? And then let's lock in and let's make it happen. And for a month, we might sprint to get something done. But what we do there, again, time boss model, we're setting our future self up to be successful. We're having the conversations with the stakeholders that matter ahead of time. We're not punching our employees in the face at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, tell them to stay late. They knew. We need to put in a little bit more time. We gave them more flexibility. Hey, work from home, work wherever, but we're just going to need to put in more time. And again, so this model allows for sprinting. A lot of times that's a pushback I get. It's like, well, it's never going to fit in just 50 hours a week. It's not. It's never going to. But we are going for, as a rule, not an exception. And most people are operating their time management strategies on the exceptions. Oh, one time I didn't look at my email for an hour and I got an email that absolutely burned me. So I'm going to look at my email constantly.
Yes.
Constantly distracted so I never feel that way again. Well, like, how often are you getting that email, right? And so we can't base our time management strategies on that one time that we got burned. We've got to have rules that are sustainable and then deal with the exceptions as they come up.
Yeah. No, I've had that too, where then I'm consistently watching and I'm like, what a waste of time, because I'm checking, you see the email pop up, oh, you have one new, and you're like, oh gosh, let me go hurry and read this. And now again, I've stepped away from what I was doing and you got to get refocused to get back in, because I have had something like that where it was kind of the emergency email to come through. It's like, we're going into a meeting right now. We need this response. We got to know. And I didn't see it. Well, and again, they don't happen all the time. It was on a fluke. We had buttoned everything up the week before. A question came up from one of their teammates. And so that's why I always have, like, certain clients have the ability to call me when it's something like that. I'm like, if I don't respond, call or text me.
That is brilliant, Christy. Like, that nugget of wisdom right there, your intuition is perfect.
Yeah.
Because what you've created is 2 lanes, right? If I can get back to you in the next 24 hours, please put it in my email. I have check my email regularly. I'll get back to you with the response. If it is on fire, if someone is bleeding or dying, please call me on the phone. And what's brilliant there is, again, empathy and confidence. You're not stiff arming them. You're not saying, I only reply to my email every 24 hours. You're giving them empathy that their priorities matter. You're giving them confidence that if it's on fire, they have a way to get to you. Otherwise, they have a place to put it. And then that gives you the freedom to not look. What you've created for yourself, Christy, is the freedom to not look at your email.
Yeah.
Because I've trained my people, anything in my email can wait. And the most valuable asset you have is your ability to focus on one thing at a time. And if you go looking at your email constantly, you are going to destroy your ability to focus, because all you're going to see are needs that you begin to feel stress from, right? Because you don't want to let those people down. You're afraid it's going to break.
Not at all.
And so it's wild, but the most productive people in the world are the people that are the best at hiding things from themselves. You need to hide your email inbox, because you've created a system where you don't have to look at it. If the phone's not ringing, you can focus. If the phone's ringing, you should probably answer it, because you've set that system up. But you've created that ability to focus by creating that symbol. That is one of the fundamental pillars in Time Boss, is how do we retrain the relationships around us where we get the most focused time possible and their needs get met. And it's simple systems like the one you just described.
Well, and too, kind of thinking about all of it, the wanting to feel valuable, of answering these as they come in and all of that. I mean, you kind of think back to the science of things, of like Pavlov's dogs, of like, hey, you hit the bell, I'm going to give you a cookie. You answer all these notifications that our phone does all day long, whatever sound you want to put to it or whatnot. And you're like, oh, instant gratification because somebody commented on something or somebody sent me an email. And how sad it is that takes primary focus over what we're doing in the moment.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's 2 reasons for that. One is often the things that we're working on, we're intimidated by, and we want to feel valuable. So we're intimidated by those big projects because we're afraid either we don't have what it takes to do it, or we're going to do it and it's not going to be good enough, or whatever, or we don't know where to start. It feels unwieldy. Let's say I get assigned that I'm responsible to launch and release the new website for the company. And that's what's on my to-do list. Like, holy smokes, that's unwieldy. But if I were to do a little bit of work and manufacture that task down to, okay, step 1, I'm going to spend the next hour and I'm going to gather requirements for this project. Again, when we make tasks manageable with a clear definition of done, we're so much more likely to attack it. And if you think of it, that's all our email is, right?
It is.
The reason why email feels good is because if I email you, Christy, I'm not going to email you nonsense. I'm going to say, Christy, I had a question about XYZ. Can you get back to me? Or I need that report. You're like, oh, I did it. Check the box. Andrew likes me more because I responded in a reasonable amount of time. Like, we get all these good vibes from it. And so we essentially have to compete with that with our to-do list. We have to create manageable tasks, clear definition of done that make us feel like we're making progress. The number one detractor for productivity in the Western world is the unread count on any messaging system we have.
Oh yeah.
Because we know how to play that game, right? We know how to make that number go down, but it doesn't, and it might be correlated to value, right? You might be replying to a client or closing a deal or whatever, but not necessarily. And so again, it's that idea of time boss. I'm the boss of my future self. I have to make decisions about how am I ordering my time to ensure I get the results that I want, and I can do that without overwhelm. I think that's the critical step for everyone.
I think so too, and it's also a way to balance, because I've had things in the past of very demanding clients that they want you to be their only focus. They don't care that you work with a handful of other clients. Theirs is always an emergency and it's urgent. And if I was to tell them, "Hey, I can't talk right now. Let's chat at 3 o'clock," they would essentially lose their mind. And it's really sad that we've come to tolerate some of that, even myself. And I'm like, gosh, this is not healthy. This is very toxic. And I think in the early stages of business, I call it, because we're all hungry. We want to grow. We want money coming in. It was easier to take those types of clients because you're like, oh, it's going to cover the bills. And I was willing to put up with some of the nonsense versus now being an established company. I don't want anything to do with that type of client.
Yeah, I would, Alex Hormozy has great wisdom on this. Like if you're tolerating those type of clients, I think it's a volume issue. Like I really, I would focus on a different area of the business to increase your lead flow, to have more optionality of who you can work with.
Exactly.
Because again, I mean, it's in Time Boss, we say you will get the life you choose or the life you tolerate, one or the other. And I think most knowledge workers, business owners are just tolerating the life coming at them. And I think there's other opportunities available. They just have to take ownership of, I have agency. I can change the variables to get a different outcome. And I'm with you on that, Chrissy. I was about to hold up a peace sign when you were describing that. Life is too short. It really is.
It really is. Yeah.
And we just have to decide what is our life worth. And I just have a really high opinion of my life, of my time. And I would rather change a variable, like increase my lead flow to have more optionality, than accept having to continually deal with this client. You may be making payroll or scratching an itch, but are you actually thriving? Are you actually building the business you want? I would encourage anyone listening stuck in that situation to just ask that question. How much is my life worth? What are my other options to solving this problem besides tolerating this jerk of a client that is not respecting my time?
Yeah. And I think that eventually does lead to burnout in a different way, because it's just this toxic environment and being on all the time. And I had that happen last year even. And I had to like take a couple weeks off once that project was done because it was so toxic. Yeah. And it was funny, a couple of the people on the team too, we all kind of said the same thing, like, don't call us, like, we're good. And all of us in general too, as we're all just exhausted on a project that was easy, but the personality of the company was extremely difficult. Mm-hmm. And they made everything 10 times harder than it should be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think life's too short personally, but really, again, it's your choice. I mean, again, we're all making a choice. Mm-hmm. I just personally think life's too short.
It really isn't. I have one question that's come up a couple of times in here that I think would be good to kind of speak about as we're going in that direction a little bit, but just talking through, what are some of those signs that a team is burning out?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. If the number one sign of burnout is you are lacking the motivation to deliver what's expected of you, that's the number one sign. If you can't even like choose to be present to make a task happen, that's a sign of burnout. So that's if that's happening, like if you're actively feeling that, you are approaching the edge, and I would really take dramatic steps to move back from it. That's a big one. Other things you'll see is irritability. We lose compassion for each other, right? We feel like we're in a hopeless situation, and so kindness begins to go out the door. You just see people chirping at each other. There's just a lethargicness. You come into meetings and there's no relationship, there's no chit chat, there's just nothing there.
Yeah.
There's no discretionary energy, if you will, to even invest in culture. I am just trying to survive. Like, you are getting the bare minimum for me because I feel like I am running on empty. I think those are the key signs to look for. And if you're feeling that, like, that is a red flashing light that something needs to change.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. And even when I kind of worked the corporate world for a short stint of time before going out on my own, that's very real there. People just showing up, punching the time card, essentially doing enough to sustain and not doing anything else above and beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really, I mean, it's just survival. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, people are doing the best they can. And I think when you're leading a team, you are managing the adventure in everyone's head. And you're really trying to align that adventure with whatever the adventure the company is on. And when people feel like I'm in a stress hamster wheel, I grind all day, I cope all night, and we do it all over again tomorrow. I don't see us making progress. I don't see a way out of the way that I'm feeling. People eventually burn out, and they think, so the way that we all think, because none of us like to point the finger ourselves, it was the job's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Open another job. And if we don't have those personal habits and mental models of how to approach time, it's just going to happen again in the next.
Oh yeah, it follows you. I always say that when people move, they get this itch to just be like, oh, I hate where I live, I'm leaving. And I'm like, that's cool. You didn't solve any problems. So you're going to move and it's going to end up at your doorstep. Also, it's just going to be a little delayed in getting there, but the exact same problem is going to happen until you actually resolve what the root cause is.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I got another one too that's really good from Mick. How do you put yourself in an environment that increases the likelihood of deep work?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Great question. So there's really 4 blockers to deep work in any environment. Number 1 is relationships. And so we've talked about that a little bit. You have to retrain relationships. So you're never going to get deep work with Teams, Slack, or email or text messages open all day long. If you're looking at those things all day long, you're never going to get there. So you have to create an environment where those things can be shut and you're not going to be in danger. So, like your wisdom, Christy, of the 2 lanes. If it's on fire, call me. Otherwise, message me, and I'm not looking at my messages. That's a really key one, because deep work comes from feeling safe. That feeling of there's enough time for me to do this right now. And if you're aware of all these needs coming at you, you're not going to feel safe. You're going to feel like, if I don't work on those needs, someone's going to get hurt, either them or me. So relationships is one. The other, I think, is environment. So you need to shut your door. Again, think about managing attention. If you work from home, shut your door. Don't work in the kitchen where you can see the dirty dishes. Don't work in an environment where someone can come in and interrupt you constantly. If you work at home with kids, I know a lot of us do. If you work at home with kids, I think you need to create systems to be fully present to work where they are safe. So in the same way that you might retrain relationships to call you, I mean, if that means you need to have a babysitter to say, hey, for the next 2 hours, unless my child is bleeding or dying, I need you to fully take care of them. They can't be wandering in my room. And again, you're not being a bad parent. You're just creating a system to focus. And so I think environment's critical. That's another one. 3 is process. Like, have systems that work for you. So if your systems keep breaking down for whatever reason, it's going to be really hard for you to focus. Solve the root cause of those systems breaking, whatever it is. Every time you have an issue, I would encourage you to consider, what is the root cause of this issue? How do I solve this problem so I never feel this pain again? And then over time, you will have more and more ability to focus. And then the last one, so we've talked about relationships, the environment, process. The last one is you. And this is often the hardest part of deep work. You really have to work on yourself to be able to do deep work. That means your phone needs to probably be in a different room, right? We all have some low-level dopamine addictions to notifications, to social media, to when we're doing deep work and we feel intimidated, we just like, oh, I feel out of control, I'm just going to go look at the news real quick, or whatever we do, right?
Yeah.
I think we have to be paying attention to those things and working through those things. I just want to go look at my email because I just want to get that hit of feeling valuable. Pay attention to that. Notice that. And I might encourage you to say, like, how do you define how you feel value? And often that is work. That is, I mean, you talk about deep work. Some of the deep work we have to do in ourselves is
Yeah.
our scoreboard for where we draw our identity from. I wake up every morning and my mantra, because of my faith background, is I am fully loved, lacking nothing. That means that I don't have to accomplish anything today to feel okay about myself. Right. So everything is gravy. Everything I get to do today is contribution that I'm excited about, not this I'm going to find check boxes that I can check off just to feel good about myself. And so again, to get to deep work, sometimes we have to do that work on ourselves. Otherwise, we are going to constantly spin and constantly go look for the thing that's going to make us feel valuable. But if you're just looking for functional things, retrain your relationships and get an environment where you're not going to get distracted. Really think about your focus as a thing that you're managing, meaning anything pinging or dinging and interrupting you is going to prevent you from really doing that deep work.
Yeah, that's good. I like that a lot. And yeah, and I think the last point is what's so important, because we so often want to take care of everything but ourselves.
100%.
Yeah. Or it's, I don't want to take ownership of that. I'm not the problem. It's these other things out here. And it's like, no, actually it's not. Look in the mirror and do that check. I think isn't it David Goggins that has that quote or something? It's like, go take it up with the man in the mirror and don't come back until things have been resolved.
100%.
Yeah.
I am the problem. Just own it. Like I think maturity begins when you decide that you are 100% responsible for your life. I don't, for anyone listening, it doesn't matter how bad the situation you're in. You are not an indentured servant. We live in the Western world. You can make a change. You have agency. I know that feels hard. That may feel scary. It's not true. You have the ability to change. And so we are responsible. And again, Time Boss is intended to be this incredibly empowering title that we give to ourselves, realizing that we can make decisions to make change and set our future self up to be successful. We just have to do the work. It is on us.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait for your boss to come to. I mean, you might have a boss that's going to listen to me and bring in this system and help, but I wouldn't plan on it, right?
No, not at all.
You have to take ownership yourself to make those changes. And again, in any environment, I have worked in the most frenetic environments where I applied this mental model and framework and I could run successfully. Most people, here's the thing that most people don't realize, Christy, most people are operating on incomplete information.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a zany client, if I have a zany client and I need your time at 2 p.m. and I say, I am so sorry. I'm tied up on another item at 2 a.m. Can I talk to you at 4 p.m.?
Yeah.
Guess what they're not going to say? What are you doing at 2 p.m.? Is it more important than me? Who are you working with? Who are you talking? They don't know. They have no clue. They might think in the back of their mind, oh, he's probably doing brain surgery at 2 p.m. He can't do it. I could be like playing with my kids on the floor. Who cares? All I have to say is, I'm so sorry, I'm not available. I've got another item I'm tied up on. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah.
And so it sometimes is so simple. We just have to take ownership of our time. And again, I'm not trying to be lazy at all. I care about my contribution. Time Boss is for people that are up to something. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking to give anyone a get out of jail free card. I'm looking for you to actually ramp your contribution, have greater impact, just to do that without overwhelm. And sometimes it's just the simplest little activities, little flips in how you say something, little flips in how you think about your work that make all the difference.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah, and you get a lot of freedom from that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. One last question from Avery. She says, if you could go back and teach yourself your younger self a framework, what's the one principle you wish you learned sooner?
Time is cash, not credit. I think that alone will change people. Decide how much of your life you're willing to give to work and then work backwards. Mm-hmm. I gave every waking moment of my life to work because I didn't know what else to do, and people kept asking me to do things. I saw someone earlier say, what do you do early in your career when you want to perform? I get it. Like, that was the tension, but it's completely arbitrary. No one knows that you're doing that. Yeah. No one knows that you're giving every waking moment of your life. No one knows that you're only giving half of your life. We are operating on incomplete information. The goal is to deliver value. I set a budget of 50 hours a week for Time Boss, and my goal is to get the results that I want within those 50 hours. That creates a creativity of what I say yes to and what I say no to that I would never have if I just decided to work unending, right? Mm-hmm. It's Ben Hardy wrote the book, 10X is easier than 2X. Yes. Time constraint drives 10X thinking. Because if I'm going to get the results that I want in 50 hours a week, I have to think outside the box. I can't just grind harder. I have to look for strategies, solutions, opportunities that are going to get me the results that I want. If I had known that at 26, my life would have been completely different.
Yeah.
Time Boss is a comprehensive way of thinking about time that's based around that simple fact. And so that's where I would start. You have to work backwards. My goal with Time Boss is for it to be a shortcut for people where they don't have to feel the 10 years of pain and the hundreds of iterations that I did. They can just shortcut it. But it begins with time is cash, not credit. I'm going to make a decision of how much of my life I'm willing to give to work and work backwards from there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Cool. Anything else that we didn't touch on as we start to close of, where can people find you if this is something they want to work on?
Yeah, absolutely. So LinkedIn's a great place to connect. I think this is probably being broadcast on LinkedIn right now. So great place to connect. We post helpful ideas multiple times a week. We have a masterclass. If you're interested in this model in total, I'm a firm believer that information is free. So we have a 90-minute masterclass that walks you through the entire Time Boss framework. So you could be up and running on this literally by tomorrow if you really wanted to be. The people get involved with Time Boss when they want to go faster and they need accountability. So we do coaching and accountability within this framework, one-on-one group coaching. We also have a digital course with asynchronous coaching to help people with that accountability function, because life change is hard. Often we need someone with us to help us take that next step. If you can go work out on a gym on your own, and if you're that kind of person, you're going to get great results. A lot of people need to be in a class or have a trainer to have that accountability to actually get over the hump. And those are the individuals that we're looking to serve with Time Boss.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for your awesome questions in there. We'll be sure to put answers to those and keep posting them in there as you watch it throughout the week. But thank you again, Andrew, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Christy. I loved having the conversation with you.